MAGA Congressman and Trump stooge Dan Crenshaw appeared on Piers Morgan's show today to continue to push the conspiracies coming out of the Trump campaign and defend all the indefensible actions of Donald Trump this week and really throughout his entire campaign. And of course, that is what Dan Crenshaw does as a Trump stooge. But unfortunately for him, and fortunately for us, Tim Miller was also making an appearance on Piers Morgan's show today, and he did such an incredible job shutting down the lies, calling out Dan Crenshaw, and leaving him silenced and stunned with an incredible takedown that I can't wait to check out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button and join the community that we are building on this channel. It really goes a long way. Now, first, I want to get into this incredible clip of Tim Miller calling out Dan Crenshaw's lies about January 6th in such a perfect way. Let's take a look.
Yeah, you know what happened? You know what happened after that? Because I was there. You know what happened after that? A few hours later, we did our jobs and we got back to business. You know what happened? A few weeks later, Donald Trump moved out of the White House without a word. He didn't move out of the White House?
Well, no. Well, it's not true because for starters, you didn't go back.
Am I confused or are you confused?
Who's shrieking now? For starters, you didn't go back to business. There were votes to overturn the election, and as you said, your colleague Ted Cruz of Texas voted on the side of the rioters. And then Donald Trump didn't go to the inauguration for the first time in history. He went home like a petulant child. I want to read something that Dan Crenshaw wrote. Here's Dan.
Okay, so you're mad that he didn't go to the inauguration. That's what it is.
He didn't. We didn't have a peaceful transfer of power. He didn't. In every other transition before this, the outgoing president, their team invites the incoming team in.
Okay, so
this is what we do in a normal democracy.
So let me just get this straight. Because he didn't sit there in January and watch President Biden get inaugurated.
No, Dan. Because
that's not a peaceful transition of power. That is such an absurd statement to make. But go ahead.
Okay, Dan.
I'm glad you're reading quotes from my book. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Dan, fine. Then that's not the sitting there that I care about. How about when he sat there off the Oval Office for hours watching TV while a mob of people carrying his flag attacked police officers and stormed the Capitol? The President of the United States was not on the side of the Capitol Police. He sat there and watched his DVR, and he ate his well-done hamburgers and did nothing. He did nothing for the Capitol Police that stood there because he was rooting for them to lose. That is not a peaceful transfer of power. That is Donald Trump's behavior that is unacceptable. And honestly, if anybody else in American public life was running against him, I would be for them, including you, including Nikki Haley, who I voted for, including almost all of the elected Democrats.
All right, listen.
That was unacceptable behavior, Dan. That was unacceptable behavior. Do you think
many people would agree with? I thought that was unacceptable behavior, but let's move forward to
Congressman. Congressman, was it unacceptable behavior for you?
Tim does such a great job making both the case that Donald Trump is an incredible threat to democracy. The danger that he poses has never been more clear. But at the same time, we also have to view him as the petulant child that he is. He would not show up to President Biden's inauguration because he is just so insecure, aggrieved, and angry. So we have to talk about both of those things in context because, of course, he is a danger, but he is also a buffoon who no one should have ever trusted with any sort of leadership position because he is completely incapable of thinking about anyone else but himself. And it's not just Donald Trump who is a danger to our democracy and our institutions, but the rest of his team, which along with Project 2025, has just gotten more and more insane. And Tim Miller did a great job calling that out right here.
I don't, because this is the thing. You guys don't want to show Donald Trump's answers because they're even more word salad. It's lies and it's conspiracies and it's dangerous. And that's why we're not showing his interviews where he's lying about what's happening with Hurricane Helene right now, or the debate where Kamala mopped the floor with him. Here's the thing. Congressman Crenshaw wants your audience to think that the Republican Party right now is the same as it was in 2017, and that the Donald Trump administration will be the same as it was when he brought in a bunch of traditional Republicans to be around him in his cabinet and to work in his staff. And I'm sorry, that's just an imaginary world that the congressman wants to live in to feel comfortable. Because the world we live in now is all of those people. No, I'm sorry, Piers, let me finish. All of those people are gone now. And at the RNC at the box, the people around Trump are Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson. Tucker had a prominent spot to speak at the convention. Congressman Crenshaw did not. This new party is a nativist party that's going to be about mass deportations and tariffs and revenge on Donald Trump's enemies. If you don't believe me, listen to what Donald Trump says. And I just want to know why Congressman Crenshaw thinks that he understands where the party is better than Trump's own vice president, Mike Pence, who assesses this and says, no, this is not someone we can trust. Why does Congressman Crenshaw think that he knows better than Mike Pence about Donald Trump's character and what kind of policies he would put in place?
Dan, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so I'll just remind everybody that we're about to vote in November. And on your ballot, it doesn't ask you the question of whether Donald Trump is the same as Jesus Christ. That's not what the question is. The question is, do you prefer Donald Trump or do you prefer Kamala Harris? And so any reasonable and objective person is going to look at that question and they're going to say, well, okay, well, what things matter to me? Do I want better immigration policy? Do I want my border to actually have law and order around it? Do I want my cities to be safe? Do I want a peace through strength type of foreign policy? Do I want Abraham Accords or do I want October 7th?
These guys can't answer this.
Do I
This
want
is
a better
crazy.
economy with less regulations? Do I want my oil and gas industry to be pummeled by regulation after regulation? Or do I want my electricity prices to go back down? That's the question. And that's the question that people are going to be
That's a
answering.
damning
And by the way,
non-answer, to borrow a phrase.
mass deportations, a vast majority, that's not a non-answer. I'm the only one actually giving facts
It is
here.
a non-answer.
The
Why do you
mass
know better than Mike
deportation
Pence?
is broadly
Why can you assess-
supported by the American people, including Hispanics.
Why shouldn't we listen to Donald Trump's vice
So ask the
president and his
question a
chief of
different way
staff?
then, Tim.
Why shouldn't we
You
listen
ask
to Mike?
them. I'm not here to answer for them. I'm here
Doesn't
to
it-
answer
doesn't
for
it
me.
alarm
And
you?
I'm here
Doesn't
to
that
lay this
alarm
out
you?
very simply.
You don't
very
feel at
simply
all
for the American
alarmed that
people
the-
and what the choices are.
Dan, you're not at all alarmed that the
The only
last
thing that alarms
administration
me is
ended
your
with people
high-pitched,
storming the
shrieking
Capitol?
voice.
You can see there that Dan Crenshaw really can't even respond because he knows it's true as much as we do. That it's not just Donald Trump who has gotten crazier, but the people who surround him. His cult has become even more crazed. We see this with Project 2025. The people, the loyalists that Donald Trump wants to appoint to positions of high power in our government to attack it from within. We've seen Donald Trump Jr. say that he wants Laura Loomer to be press secretary. I'm sure that Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene want cabinet positions as well. That should all terrify us, and we need to continue to call it out. And of course, at the same time, call out not just the people around Donald Trump, but his flawed character as well, which Tim Miller did so perfectly right here.
Well, again, that's an emotional argument because all we have to do
No,
is
it
look at
isn't.
the history of his
No, it
policies,
isn't,
his
Dan.
executive orders. No, stop interrupting me. It is an emotional argument because an objective argument would be, okay, what is somebody going to do? Well, they already had the job once. So I have a feeling that they're probably going to do the same policies that got the border under control the first time. And they're going to immediately
That's an emotional
re-implement those
argument.
policies that got the border under control. How is that an
That's
emotional
You're
argument?
making an emotional argument.
That's an
You're saying
objective
I have a
argument
feeling.
based on history. That's based on history.
You're saying I have a feeling. This is like saying, all right, man, I got hammered at the bar and I drove 90 miles an hour down the highway and I spun out and we circled around and I landed straight. And that means I should just get hammered and drive again because last time we barely
That was the
survived with
weirdest
only a little
analogy. That's the
insurrection.
weirdest
We had a
analogy.
mild
No,
insurrection. We had a mild insurrection. Look, Dan,
Listen,
character
I'll-
matters. You know that.
I'll help you out.
Dan,
I'll help
you
you
wrote
out
a
with
whole
your
book about
metaphors,
this.
okay?
Character matters.
I'll-
It does.
I'll
In a
help you
leader,
out with the
character
metaphors
matters. You
here.
cannot lie about people. You cannot advance racist lies. And you cannot tell people that our elections are fraudulent when they're real. You cannot tell people that they're eating pets, that the government doesn't care about you, that the country's going to end. All of these lies that he tells, that affects the country, man.
Okay, so
Like,
your,
it has an
your
impact
argument
on
is
people.
that
The defense of the indefensible from Dan Crenshaw is just so disingenuous. This is a person who knows that Donald Trump's actions are wrong. This is a person who, after Donald Trump torpedoed the bipartisan border deal, said that he did so and is now trying to backtrack on that, of course, because he's a Trump stooge. He's a MAGA loyalist. He's going to follow the cult because he has no spine. But of course, he can't call out Trump's lack of character, but thank goodness Tim Miller is to do so. And that wasn't the only thing he called out. Dan Crenshaw, as MAGA always has to, is mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name. So Tim Miller shut that down right here.
And I think Kamala Harris has put out a pretty detailed economic policy that's far superior to Donald Trump's. What Donald Trump has put forth for his economic policy is a 20% across the board tariff, which I know Dan Crenshaw cannot possibly support, and just a budget busting $5 trillion more added to our deficit. That's Donald Trump's policies. So I think when it comes to rhetoric, preparation and policy. She's superior. And lastly, I would just point out that at this point, I would think that the congressman should be able to know how to pronounce her name correctly.
Yeah, I mean, look, the obsession with how you pronounce her name, I think, is a bit ridiculous.
It's not obsession. Just pronounce it right. I
She's
don't call you
Kamala, she's
poor.
Kamala,
I don't
she's,
care.
I've heard Democrats pronounce it about
Just
8
do it.
different
What
ways.
do you mean, who cares? Just do it.
They really just go to the lowest of the low. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel for attacks on Kamala Harris. To have to mispronounce her name just shows how childish they are, just shows how little character they have, and just shows that they have no real attack to land on her. There's no political position that they can take with any sort of substance, and so they're just flinging insults and saying dumb things because that's all they can do. They have no messaging. They never have. They just want to complain. And we have to continue to call out those complaints just like Tim Miller did and all of those MAGA lies. And we are going to continue to do so. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.